When a killer who knows no mercy plays a deadly game with human life, someone you know is watching your every move. Someone who means you harm. Someone who knows you better than you know yourself. Somewhere in the shadows, danger is lurking, and wherever you go, night must fall. Now the time has come when death comes in silence and strikes without warning. There is nowhere to hide. The choice is simple. Do nothing and die.
Number 10. Joanne Dennehy. 31-year-old Joanne Dennehy is one of only 3 women in English criminal history to be assessed to be so dangerous she can never be released from prison. She stabbed 3 men she knew to death in England during a 10-day killing spree. Then she knifed 2 men at random in broad daylight within 9 minutes of one another as they walked their dogs. Dennehy had wanted to kill 9 men in total. She claimed to hunt and stab men for the purpose of entertainment. During sentencing, Dennehy laughed, smiled, and swore as she was told she would die in jail. Number 9. Lainz Angels of Death. The Lainz Angels of Death were 4 nurses working at Lainz Hospital in Vienna. They were Waltraud Wagner, Irene Leidolf, Maria Gruber, and Stefanija Mayer. They started killing in 1983 and, like so many others, claimed that they killed patients out of pity. But as all of their patients were over 75, their killings went unnoticed. As soon as they realized they can get away with it, they went power mad and began to kill patients they didn't like or that were difficult cases. They were finally caught in 1991 and admitted to killing 48 patients. Police believe this number is far higher, possibly over 200. Despite the fact that they admitted to killing so many of their patients, all 4 women have now been released on good behavior. Number 8. Jeanne Weber. Jeanne Weber was born in 1874. She murdered 4 children by strangulation, including her 3rd and last son and 2 nieces. 8 murder charges were filed, including all 3 of her children and 2 others who died in her care. She was acquitted in February 1906 due to her brilliant lawyer and misguided jurors. She then started working as a babysitter, which resulted in 2 more deaths. In 1908, a father found her strangling his 10-year-old son and had to punch her 3 times to make her let go of the lifeless body. Jeanne Weber was ultimately declared insane and spent 2 years in an asylum before hanging herself in 1910. Number 7. Joanna Barraza. Experts believe that Barraza began her killing sometime around 1990. Her victims were always women over 60, typically ones who lived alone. Posing as a government official, she would gain access to the victims' houses and then murder and rob them. Witnesses led the police to believe the suspect was a male dressed in women's clothes due to Barraza's masculine features. Fingerprints taken from Barraza linked her to 10 murders, but at least 40 more were suspected. She was tried in 2008 and found guilty on 16 charges of murder and aggravated burglary and 11 separate counts of murder. She was sentenced to 759 years in prison. Number 6. Jane Toppan. Jane Toppan was trained as a nurse. In 1885, she began working at Cambridge Hospital in Massachusetts. While employed there, she experimented on her patients for her own amusement. Eventually, this experimentation escalated into murder. She used a stereotypical feminine method of murder: poison. She stated that she derived sexual pleasure from watching a patient die, and in 1899 killed her sister Elizabeth. Toppan stood trial, but was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She was committed to Taunton Insane Hospital. She killed a total of 31 people. Number 5. Maria Swanberg. Maria Swanberg received the nickname Good Me because she loved to care for the children and ill people in her poor neighborhood. Over the course of 3 years, she poisoned every family she worked for, starting with her own parents. She would then collect the inheritance of the deceased, claiming she earned it for her services, often leaving no money to cover a burial. Some of her victims managed to escape death, but sustained irreparable damage. She was caught in 1883 and tried for 90 murders, but found guilty of only 3. She was sentenced to life in a correctional facility where she died in 1915. Number 4. Vera Renzi. Vera Renzi was beautiful, and she was known to be involved with older men from the age of 15. Her first marriage was with a wealthy businessman who fathered her son. Renzi suspected him of cheating, so she poisoned his wine with arsenic, claiming he abandoned her. Her second husband disappeared the same way a few months later. Renzi decided she had enough of marriage, but not of men. Her boyfriends kept vanishing until she was reported to the police by an angry wife. Searching her house, the police found 32 male bodies in various stages of decomposition in her wine cellar, each in his own coffin. She also murdered her son when he discovered her secret. Renzi confessed to all the murders and was sentenced to life in prison, where she died from a brain hemorrhage. Number 3. Aileen Wuornos. Between December 1989 and September 1990, the bodies of several men were found murdered along Florida highways. Wuornos confessed to the murders of 7 men. She claimed she was picked up by them when she was working as a highway prostitute and shot them in self-defense after they attempted to sexually assault her. The jury didn't buy it, however. She was found guilty and received a death sentence for 6 of the 7 men. Wuornos was executed October 9, 2002 by lethal injection. Number 2. Nanny Doss. Her first victims were her own children. Her first husband, George Fraser, arrived home one day in 1920 and found the kids lying on the kitchen floor, dead. Doss claimed it had been an accidental poisoning, but evidently, Fraser was not convinced. He left and never went back. Relatives and husbands continued to die of stomach problems and other such ailments until Doss's 5th husband, Samuel Doss, suddenly passed away. The doctor ordered an autopsy be done, which revealed massive doses of arsenic in the man's system. Nanny Doss was a black widow who went through 5 husbands before being caught. The bodies of Doss's husbands, relatives, and children were exhumed and tested. It was found that Doss's 2 infant children, 4 of her husbands, 2 of her sisters, her mother, and a nephew had all been killed by arsenic poisoning. She killed a total of 11 plus victims. She was never put to death because she was a woman and died in prison at age 59 in 1965 from leukemia. Number 1. Janine and Jones. Janine and Jones often used muscle relaxants to silently kill her victims. She used injections of several drugs to cause the kids to get gravely ill, and she'd save them to gain praise, and a majority of the babies used to die. Jones's victims were exclusively babies. Jones worked as a pediatric nurse in the Bexar County Medical Center in San Antonio. By 1981, the nurses in Bexar County began to notice that there was an unusually high infant mortality rate. Ultimately, prosecutors were only able to find Jones guilty of 1 murder, but she is suspected to have killed 46 children in her spree. She was sentenced to 99 years for the murder and 60 years for another incident in which the child survived. Jones has made a number of appeals for her release, all unsuccessful. It has just been announced that Jones will be released in 2017, by which time she will have served 33 years of her sentence. A Facebook group has been set up by the friends and family of her victims. If they can convict her in the killing of just 1 other child, she will be in prison for the rest of her life.
Do you agree with our list? Tell us in the comments below. For more great videos published every day, be sure to subscribe to Make My Logic on YouTube.